If you're watching this video, you're most likely someone who feels like there's just simply not enough hours in the day. Your to-do list seems to get longer by the end of the day rather than shorter, and maybe you're a knowledge worker who works quite a demanding job, and so you don't seem to have enough time to fit in everything in your days that you really want to. Just looking at your long to-do list may give you anxiety, and instead you may choose to procrastinate in front of your phone or Netflix. If this sounds a bit like you, well, maybe this video could be helpful. Here are 8 simple habits that I've been implementing in my life recently that save me, on average, 2 to 3 hours a day and up to 20 hours a week. Alright, so welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Willis. I'm a chartered accountant who's been working in the industry for 7 years now and has been studying all things personal finance, money and accounting for the past decade. Before we jump into the 8 habits, if you're new here, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Let's jump into it. Alright, so habit number 1 is to track your time. Now this sounds really basic, but by tracking your time for, say, 1 week at least, you get an understanding of where your time is really going on a daily basis. You get to understand exactly what you're doing, where you're losing time, and where unnecessary tasks that are draining your time could be cut out. Before I started tracking my time, I'd have a simple to-do list at the start of the day. It would be 5 tasks that I had to complete by the end of the day, and of course, once the end of the day rolled around, that list was longer than when it started. And I didn't really know where I was going wrong. I had my to-do list, I prioritised, I ate the frog as they say, and I just seemed to not be getting anywhere. However, once I started tracking my time for a week, I started to understand where my time was really going, and I became conscious of the fact that 1 hour spent on a task does not necessarily mean that 1 hour of work on that task has actually been done. Because when you start to track your time, you start to realise, okay, I sat down for 1 hour to work on this task, but I spent 10 minutes responding to emails. I spent 5 minutes responding to WhatsApp messages. I spent 5 minutes making myself a drink. 10 minutes talking to somebody else in another department if you work in an office. And then before you know it, maybe you think you've worked on a task for an hour, but you've actually only done about half an hour's work on that task itself. Now the way I track my time is just using a simple Excel spreadsheet because it's the most flexible. I track my time using increments of 6 minutes, and so each 6 minutes is 1 unit, and therefore I know that 10 units is 1 hour. If you're not a fan of Excel, you could use a specialist app that will be available on your smartphone or laptop, or you could just use a trusty pen and paper. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, well, I can't really be tracking my time to 6-minute increments every single day, that would just drive me insane. Well, I understand. However, I promise you, if you do this just for 1 week, it will completely open your eyes as to where your time is going and really make you appreciate what tasks you can cut out to save yourself so much time. Habit number 2 is the daily highlight. So this is an idea from the book Make Time, and what it essentially says is that we need to find that one task each day that is absolutely imperative that we complete. We must apply unwavering focus to that task until it's complete and not get distracted by anything else until we've completed it. And the way I like to implement this in my own life is to sit down at the start of each day, or more ideally the night before, and think, what is the one single task that I have to complete today at all costs? There's no wiggle room. And if you think about it, if you identify that one task that you must complete on a daily basis, if you just did that one task for the entire day, then you've already won, because you've completed the most important thing to you each day. And if you did that for 365 days a year, you would have had an extremely productive year and saved yourself so much time from getting distracted from other tasks that are much less important than your daily highlight. And I think it's really important to focus on your daily highlight first thing in the morning before anyone else is able to bug you with less important tasks or break your focus. Because first thing in the morning, when you have some spare time, when most other people are maybe not even out of bed yet, then that's when you can get the most deep work done and really protect that daily highlight and make as much progress as you possibly can to your daily highlight that is most important to you. Habit number 3 is to put that phone on focus mode. Now, it's absolutely imperative that you put your smartphone on focus mode whenever you're working on your daily highlight or just trying to do any kind of deep work and avoid distractions. Now, smartphones are of course one of the absolute greatest inventions that human beings have ever come up with. I mean, think about it. We can listen to any song anywhere in the world. We can find our way home if we get lost through the use of maps, or we can find out pretty much any piece of information we want to within about 20 seconds from Google. However, smartphones can be absolute productivity killers. Research has shown that if we're focused on a task and we break that focus, even for just a second, then it takes our brains on average about 23 minutes to get back into a state of full focus on that task once the focus is broken. And what is one of the easiest ways to break our focus? Well, a smartphone notification, and it doesn't even have to be a ping, it can just be a small vibration from the other side of the room. Your brain still knows that's happened. And ultimately this comes down to the fact that our technology evolution has massively outpaced our biological evolution. Whenever you get a notification on your phone, your brain sees that and interprets it as something that requires immediate action and triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol. Your brain is interpreting that notification, that buzz or that ping, as a threat and something that needs to be seen to immediately. Our brain can't really tell the difference between a notification on your iPhone and the noise of a saber-toothed tiger coming running after us. Even just hearing a notification somewhere in the background or feeling a slight vibration in your phone can completely break your focus on the task at hand, resetting that 23-minute clock needed to get back into what we're doing. Now, when I'm working on my daily highlight, I always have my phone in focus mode. This is generally first thing in the morning, not long after I got up, when my brain is at its absolute peak power. I also like to have my phone go into sleep mode around 1 hour before I go to bed, so I'm not going to be bothered by any notifications or be tempted to look at my screen just before I go to bed, which, as we all know, disrupts our sleep massively. I also like to put my phone out of sight when I'm working. The reason for this is because it's much less enticing to just go on your phone when you break concentration for a second in what you're doing if your phone's in a completely different room. If your phone is face up on the desk in front of you, it's much easier just to go on there, scroll social media, watch a YouTube video, and end up down a rabbit hole 1 hour later, not really knowing where the time's gone. If you really struggle to resist the urge to start scrolling on social media, there are apps available that you can download from the App Store that will restrict the use of those social media applications or any application of your choosing. An example is OneSec that I've used before, where just opening the app, it makes you wait at least 5 seconds before you can actually access the app. It tells you to take a deep breath, and then by the end of the 5 seconds, when I do this, I often don't actually want to go on the app anymore at all. And this is just another way that you can try and limit that distraction time on your phone. Habit number 4 is to block time on your calendar for important tasks. This is an idea I got from Ali Abdaal, and he calls it the rainbow calendar because he likes to use various different colours throughout his calendar to make it look a bit like a rainbow. And the idea here is that you should be blocking out time throughout the day in your calendar and leaving very few gaps in between each block. The theory behind this is that if you leave gaps in your calendar with no specific task that you should be working on, then chances are you may fill that time doing something that's less productive, such as scrolling social media. Personally, I like to use Google Calendar for this because I find it the easiest to use, and it also links to Notion as well. The way I like to do this is to have certain blocks that reoccur every day. These are blocks such as sleep time, exercise, breakfast, work, travel to work, travel home from work, and various other activities. I'll then color code these into different colors so I know exactly what to expect to be doing just based on a glance at the color that's coming up next, rather than having to read into the details. For example, I might have exercise as blue, travel time as red, work time as grey, and maybe family time and breaks as yellow. When you do this, you give yourself a structure for the day. Rather than just working on whatever pops in your head at any given moment, you've completely planned your entire day, and therefore you should be way more productive than if you just had random calls here and there, random tasks here and there that you're just working on the fly. And one last point on this to remember is do not forget to schedule yourself breaks. We can't work for 12, 13 hours a day without taking any breaks at all, so make sure you do get balance. Habit number 5 is to avoid decision fatigue. So what is decision fatigue? Well, decision fatigue is the psychological theory that the quality of decision that you make worsens the more decisions that you've made up to that point in the day. You can think of this as a kind of energy bar. So first thing in the morning, your energy bar will be nice and full on 100%, and you'll start by making good decisions. However, as you continue to make more and more decisions throughout the day, that bar continues to decrease. By the time you've finished work, or whatever you're doing for the day, and it comes around to the evening, your decision bar will be very low, and the chances of you making good decisions is much lower than it was in the morning. And this is the reason why working on your daily highlight first thing in the morning is so important, because first thing in the morning your decision bar is high, your energy levels are high, you're going to make good decisions, and you're probably in the most creative state that you can be. It's also another reason why I like to personally exercise first thing in the morning, because I know that if I don't do it first thing in the morning and then I have a long day of work, by the time I come home at say 6:30 p.m. in the evening, my decision bar is going to be much lower, and there's a much higher chance that I'm going to decide not to go to the gym or go for a run, and instead just to eat and go to bed, which is a poor decision. So how do we work on keeping our decision bar as high as possible for as long as possible throughout the day? Well, we need to be eliminating as many decisions as we possibly can. One way to keep your decision bar higher may be to lay out the clothes you're going to wear for the following day the night before, so you don't have to root around in your wardrobe and find something to wear on the morning of going to work. This is just simply one less decision you have to make. For me personally, you can see in my YouTube videos that I wear the same top every single time. Now, this is clearly not the only item of clothing that I do own, but it removes that aspect of having to make a decision before recording every video to keep my decision bar as high as it can possibly be. Another way that you can keep your decision bar as high as possible during the week is to actually meal prep on the weekends. If you meal prep and store your food away nicely in Tupperware in the fridge or freezer, and then come home on workday evenings and then have that food ready to go straight away, then it doesn't even take a massive decision to choose what to eat. You don't have to think about what are we going to have for dinner, what are we going to cook, how long is it going to take. All you have to do is just take the food that you've already prepared, you've already planned to eat, heat that up for 2 to 3 minutes, and then you're good to go. And I think we can all agree that without meal prepping, the chances of us then choosing to eat out are much higher, which again is a poor decision and it's not good for your health or your finances. Habit number 6 is the 5-minute rule. And this is another one I took from Ali Abdaal, and Alex Hormozi talks about it as well. It's basically the idea that when you're thinking about doing something, you have to just get started. The more you think about doing something, the longer it takes you to actually get started and the less progress you make. Now, the 5-minute rule essentially says, when we're thinking about doing something, just commit to doing that thing for 5 minutes. I think this is a great rule because when you know you're going into something that you don't really want to do up front, and you know you can stop doing it after 5 minutes, it makes it much easier to start. And the two main benefits of the 5-minute rule are that firstly, you'll definitely make a start, and therefore you're not starting completely from scratch next time. And secondly, you'll get a sense of achievement because you know you've achieved something, you've made some progress, even if it's only 5 minutes. For me, I often procrastinate on starting to film YouTube videos. However, since using the 5-minute rule, this has been a game changer for me because I know that once I start, I'm only going for 5 minutes if I want to. However, once you do make a start, you kind of realize you might as well just carry on and complete the task in its entirety. And there's another great quote, I can't remember who it's from, but it says something along the lines of, it takes way more energy to start something than it does to keep going. So to get those first 5 minutes under your belt takes so much more energy than to keep going until that task is complete. And this is really just down to the effects of momentum. If you start a task and you make some progress with it, it becomes much easier to continue that task through to completion rather than stop, start, stop, start. So I'd highly recommend just making a start, even if it's only for 5 minutes, and you'll be surprised at how much you can achieve. I also never used to like starting a task unless it was at a nice round time, such as on the hour or half past, quarter to, and that's really kind of a waste of time. There's no real justification for not starting something right now. Ultimately, if it's 3:48 and you want to start something at 4 p.m, then you're just going to waste 12 minutes doing nothing. You might think, well, there's nothing I can possibly do in 12 minutes, and then you'll just scroll on your phone on social media probably for 20 minutes, and then you've lost all that time. But in reality, if you just start straight away, then you'll make more progress, because if you're waiting 10 minutes to start a task every time you want to start one, every hour, if you're working for, say, 10 hours and you're wasting 10 minutes every time, that's 100 minutes per day that you're wasting. That's over an hour and a half. So there's absolutely no reason to wait until on the hour to start your task. Just get started straight away. Habit number 7 is to use a physical alarm clock. If you need an alarm to wake up in the morning, then chances are you're using your phone as an alarm clock. We need to ask ourselves the question here, how often do you actually get up as soon as that alarm goes off on your phone versus how often do you sit and play on your phone for 5, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes or more? What do you think the split between those two outcomes would be? If you use your smartphone as an alarm in the morning, then there's an incentive for you to go straight on your phone as soon as you wake up. Now, this is not good for a number of reasons, but from a productivity perspective, it can lead to a massive time loss because you might go down a rabbit hole and you haven't even got out of bed yet. It's also not healthy to jump straight onto a phone first thing in the morning because you're going from a state of being asleep, which is obviously dark for your eyes, into a really bright light straight in your eyes within a few seconds, which is physically not healthy for you. And researchers say that This rapid transition can increase anxiety and irritation throughout the day and lead to ultimately a much less productive day than you may have had you not gone straight onto your phone first thing in the morning. Another benefit of a physical alarm clock is that they don't generally have snooze buttons, and so you can't really press the snooze button and lose more time that way. What I like to do is place the physical alarm clock as far away from the bed as I possibly can. Therefore, when the alarm clock goes off, I have to get up and out of bed in order to turn it off. This way, I'm already up and I don't have to think about getting out of bed after I've turned the alarm off. Then it's much easier to stay up and be productive rather than just go back to sleep. And habit number 8 is to think of ways to make the task that you're doing more fun. I think this is a genuine productivity hack and the general overall theme of Ali Abdaal's book, Feel Good Productivity. What the book says is that we need to find a way to love what we do and structure our work in a way that makes it fun and allows us to enjoy the process. When you have some tasks that you don't really enjoy, perhaps you can ask yourself the question, what would this look like if it were fun? Can you maybe work in a different environment, like a coffee shop or a different place in the house? Can you work collaboratively with some friends or colleagues and take breaks together to socialize? Can you somehow shift whatever mundane task that you may be doing into some kind of activity or adventure that makes the achievement of that task seem a bit more of a triumph than it may otherwise be? For me, the easiest way to do this is to shift the environment. Can I move simply to another room in the house or go and work in a coffee shop for a bit? This just shifts up the whole process and makes everything a little bit more unpredictable and fun. So there are my 8 habits to save me 20+ hours per week. If you enjoyed this video, I know you'll love this one, but don't go just yet. Make sure you drop a like on this video first and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you over there. Bye.